We need to change the paradigm profoundly in the state of Arizona. I'll share my own experience. I spent almost 2 decades working for City College of San Francisco, and I was able to see firsthand what ethnic studies can do. A study from Stanford University looking at the San Francisco Unified School District model has clearly demonstrated that ethnic studies not only increases retention of at-risk students, it increases grades, but more importantly, it increases the rate at which those students attend college. And in San Francisco, where I believe we really had a true model for ethnic studies, I saw what a pipeline really could be from the K-12 system to the community college and then to the university, where you see some of the very strong ethnic studies programs at San Francisco State University, at the University of California, Berkeley, and in the University of California system. So I just want to tell you how honored we are to be part of this movement. And as the mayor said, I believe that Tucson really needs to be ground zero for ethnic studies in this state. I think we have a responsibility to educate this state. When I came to Arizona, my colleagues in California said, "What are you doing going to that state?" And my response is that the state of Arizona desperately needs agents of change. And what I would ask each of you, and we're going to talk about the go-aways, but everyone here, you understand the importance of ethnic studies. You understand what it can do. And I would ask all of us to begin to take a personal and a public responsibility to educate this state, and most importantly, to educate the legislatures of this state. So those are some of my words. Now, I would like to acknowledge a couple of folks. I really want to express my gratitude to Dr. Francisca James Hernandez and to Dr. Rosalia Solorzano. Is Rosalia here? Francisca and Rosalia, I think, came and we talked about a vision really in dovetailing this event with the National Ethnic Studies event. And so I'm so thrilled that you were able to persevere and continue this out. And I'd like to echo Dolores's words to say that, you know, I, as an administrator of Pima Community College, want to publicly affirm the importance and my commitment to ethnic studies, and as one of our panelists talked about, priorities. In a time of diminishing return, we will need to make hard choices. However, I believe that growing ethnic studies really is about justice. And you know, we cannot have justice in this state until I think people understand and we collaborate and work together. And to know that there are many people in Phoenix that forget others at the table. And so our responsibility will to remind them that everyone needs to be welcome at the table. And so on that note now, I would like to, and again, it's a great honor to have the chair of our governing board here, and so it's my great honor to introduce someone we'll be hearing from in just another few minutes. Mr. Mark Hanna is the chair of the Pima Community College Governing Board, and Mr. Hanna earned an associate's degree in education from Pima Community College and his bachelor's and master's degrees in higher education from the University of Arizona. He has served as a member of the PCC Education Foundation Board, is an officer of the University of Arizona Hillel Board of Directors, and of course, chair of our Pima Community College Board of Directors. Please welcome Mr. Mark Hanna.
Thank you, Dave. And before I start, one of the panelists earlier this morning, Donna Thompson, mentioned that, and she's from Maricopa Community College, mentioned that her board members think that ethnic studies are bougie. And I just want to tell you that our board doesn't feel that way. I'm not sure what bougie is, but I know that I like saying it, bougie. And I don't think that ethnic studies are bougie. So I am really honored to welcome you on behalf of the Pima Community College Board of Governors to this first ever Creating an Ethnic Studies Articulation Taskforce workshop. You're about to embark on an endeavor that could substantially change the face of ethnic studies education in our state. So think about that. What you're doing today could make a huge difference in ethnic studies in our state. I grew up and was educated in an era where the word ethnic was only applied to types of foods. It was an aisle in the grocery store. The knowledge of cultures and history other than European Americans, in particular male European Americans, was practically non-existent in my early education. That was almost 50 years ago. No, it was more than 50 years ago. Despite the valiant efforts and substantial gains that many of you in this room have made, I'm not sure things have really changed all that much. And even though cultural demographics in our country have changed dramatically over that time, the entrenched pedagogy of European cultural superiority remains. It happens every day in our classrooms throughout this state and throughout the entire country. You have the chance to make a significant impact on that situation right here in our state by creating an educational opportunity for the future, for future educators and leaders to become agents of change at every level. An effective articulation agreement in ethnic studies not only creates a pathway that encourages scholarship and expertise in those fields, it gives support and guidance to those educators and students in our K-12 system that diverse cultural education matters. That's so important, and that's what your task today is going to be partly what you're tasked to do. I cannot be more proud of Dr. Francisca James Hernandez and Dr. Rosalia Solorzano. One more round of applause. It probably won't be the last one today for those folks. And they have made Pima Community College a leader in this effort for organizing this event today. So be assured that this institution supports you and is committed to valuing all cultures. I thank you for being here and for inviting me to be a small part of what could be a significant turning point in our state, not just in ethnic studies, higher education, but in a future where respect is just not the name of an old Aretha Franklin song. And if you're under 30, just Google it or check Spotify, all right? And you can figure out what I'm talking about. It's the way we treat each other despite our differences. Thank you again and welcome.
I'm supposed to MC, so I'm going to introduce Francisca, who is now going to give us an overview of the PowerPoint.
Thank you, David. So we're kind of launching into the workshop portion of this afternoon. And how we want to start out is show you what the nuts and bolts involve putting together an articulation task force. Again, as a reminder, the articulation task forces are this state's mechanism for making, streamlining the transfer process for community college students into the universities. So we definitely see this as creating pipeline from the community college not only, but also from earlier grades, as Mark Hanna just mentioned and others have mentioned. And also we see this most definitely because education is a critical and crucial resource in our society and an equalizing mechanism. We see this as a deeply social justice issue. So it's not just about creating state agencies, it's about creating social justice, equality, and opportunities, opening up opportunities for everybody. So an articulation task force in ethnic studies does not exist currently, as you've heard, and so we all are now a part of putting together in this room. We're going to be part of putting together an application for an articulation task force. So if you would, do I just move forward? Is that, yeah, I guess that it works. Hey, so what is an articulation task force? I just reviewed that, and you have in your packets a handout that has this information, okay? And it has a little more than what I just summarized, but we'll let you read that for yourselves about the vision, mission, and values, okay? Historically, ATFs, we call them ATFs also, Articulation Task Forces for short, have been composed of faculty from across the state, from the public community colleges and 3 public state universities, in order to come together, allow faculty to come together and talk and commiserate and create the pathways, create the articulations, and create the transfer of credit systems from courses in the community colleges to the universities. So as I've been telling my students, all that magic of transfer, it's actually behind the scenes, all these faculty and the AZ Transfer State Agency working to get that done. Our purpose today is to, yes, create a new articulation task force, but one of the visions we're trying to put forth and get your input on is perhaps we can make our ATF in ethnic studies a little bit different, in that it's not only faculty who are invested in this, but we have perhaps we can get a much broader constituency involved in our ATFs. These are public meetings. Anyone is invited to them, and perhaps we can get more public at these meetings to be a part of the construction of ethnic studies in Arizona. What I'm showing you up on the slide right now is the actual application. This is what it looks like. You can go onto the website yourself and look at the application. The one I'm showing you right now has some fields filled in already. We have a committee here already working on the application. We have parts of it completed. And I'm not going to go into depth about the application. I just wanted to show you it. This is a piece here about the different state universities and which universities have which programs and which programs offer which degrees and minors and all that. This is a list of different community colleges. We are gathering data. The application asks for headcount data on ethnic studies classes, so we are in the process of doing that. We have some of them, in fact, a couple more that are checked off here completed, but we have several more to do. And that's this criterion 3 is the headcount data. And we just wanted to show you what we have gathered so far. We have Central Arizona College. The number in the middle is the total headcount data for fall. We just have to have one count, fall of 2015, of all the students, the headcount of students taking classes that are in ethnic studies or ethnic studies related. We still have some work to do on sort of cleaning up this data, but this gives you a rough sense. Coconino Community College, of all their classes, 240. Dene College, all their classes, 699. Maricopa Community College, of all their classes, 1,410. And Northland Pioneer College, 175 of all their classes. Oh, and another one, Yavapai College, 602. I think that's the last one, yes. So the AZ transfer application only requires a head count of 120 in order to submit an application. So you can see we've well surpassed that. But we want to give the strongest application possible. So we are trying to include as many of those colleges on that list in this application, and we want to include the public you in the creation of this application. So there's one piece of this application where we feel that really lends itself to public input, and that's this line in yellow, which you probably can't read from where you're at, so we blew it up, I think, is the next slide, is this question. What is your rationale or justification for establishing an ethnic studies articulation task force? So that's what we're going to be doing today, is exploring we've kind of prepared 2 or 3 questions for you to workshop at your tables. And you're going to be answering 3 questions, or 2 of 3 questions. Everyone's going to be addressing this question, and then depending on your table number, you're going to be addressing one of these 2 questions. What is your vision for an ethnic studies in Arizona? Or develop a mission statement for ethnic studies in Arizona. Okay, so that's the conceptual framework for the workshop. That's your task. And David's going to come back up and give you instructions on how that's actually going to happen.
Thank you, Francisca. So our workshop is going to include 2 parts. The first part is at your tables. We're going to begin our discussions of answering the questions, and then the second part is when we will actually report out. So we'll take a break before we report out. So the workshop is that members from each table, as Francisca said, will discuss a total of 2 questions. Each table has a facilitator and a scribe. Facilitators only, please raise your hand if you are a facilitator. So everyone at the table knows who their facilitator is. Nice and high. Does table 5 have a facilitator? We'll get a facilitator. Does table 4 have a facilitator? There we go. Can raise them one more time so I can see who's... Okay, it seems like every table now has a facilitator. Great. So the role of facilitators is to keep the group discussion on topic and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to contribute. Keep the conversation moving and remain neutral. Remember, we want to model inclusivity, so make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be included. So scribes. Now, the scribes are also at the table. Would the scribes now raise your hands? Table 3. Table 2 looks like you need a scribe. Scribes, one more time, nice and high if you're a scribe. Because it's very important that we actually are able to document all of our work today, so we make sure we have scribes at each of the tables as well. So scribes are to write down key words and main points of the conversation at her or his table. Only the scribes will write on the pads of paper sitting on the easels. So again, you have approximately 25 to 30 minutes for each of the 2 questions. We will give you a 5-minute warning before switching to the second question. Jessica Pacheco is serving as our timekeeper. Is Jessica here? Oh, there's Jessica. Jessica will be on stage at or next to the podium. We have divided the first 2 questions according to even and odd numbered tables for the first discussion. To repeat, these are the questions you will be discussing with others at your table. So I'm going to go over those one more time. What is your vision of ethnic studies in Arizona? That's at the even numbered tables. Develop a mission statement for an ethnic studies in Arizona, odd number tables, and what is the rationale or justification for establishing an ethnic studies ATF? So you may now begin. I'm sorry? They should be starting